Two rivers and a mountain border our land. South Marlborough is a place of stunning vistas and strong community. From the heights of the majestic Mount Tapuai or Buanuku, down the Awateri and Waiatoa rivers to the coast. Let us take you off the grid on an adventure to discover South Marlborough. MAUNGA, AWA, MOANA.
For the last 10 or 12 years, I've been trying to restore a lake on our property called Lake Elderwater back to its former glory. Replanting what we can where we can, sourcing local seeds and replanting out to restore it for our kids. So Lake Elderwater on the southern end of Taimate Farm is what's effectively an ephemeral lake. It's effectively a dead lake where all the water runs. There's no flowing water running out of it. It's quite large, 2 kilometres long and about 400 metres wide, and it's very shallow. It has an abundant supply of wildlife, and it's a wildlife reserve. What's happened over many centuries is that between burning and clearing of the land, and then with European grazing and the introduction of animals and pests, a lot of the lake native vegetation was sort of lost. I think it might be the largest wetland, freshwater wetland in Marlborough. It means a lot to the community, it means a lot to us as a family, and so it was nice to start looking at giving back to it, fencing it off, protecting it, starting to plant it out and restore it to its former glory. And within the last couple of years, I saw climate change protesters and people in towns protesting, and it sort of got me a little bit angry. Well, surely you could be doing something better than just the protests. And I started to actually take a step back, and I realised, well, a lot of these protesters, they might not have the financial capability of jumping on the land and providing some plants and getting stuck in and doing a bit of mahi instead of sort of protesting throughout townships. And so a bit of an idea sort of came to me that, look, how about I provide them a link to farms that are wanting to do this work but struggle with getting the labour and the time to do it. And so I guess it was coming down to, or at the end of the day, breaking up of the rural-urban divide in some way. It's trying to get people from towns wanting to plant out onto farms, getting plants in the ground where farmers are struggling to get it done. I mean, there's huge benefits. You know, everyone's a winner at the end of the day from it. You know, it reduces the farmers' demands and costs, but it provides the people in towns the ability to get out, see what's happening on farm, see what positive projects there are, and for farmers really start showcasing what's been going on.
Just before the earthquake, we talked about extending our museum because it was so tiny, and we have so much to show and so many stories to tell, didn't we? But we really never had the facility to do it. So we looked at what we could do, and we got a concept plan in our heads and started some fundraising, and then all of a sudden the earthquake came. It caused a lot of disruption and sadness in our district, but it also gave us the opportunity to look at building our heritage centre and making it a reality.
The heritage centre is, the idea is to make it a living thing, really. We're trying to move away from the standard museum concept. We're aiming to make it, although we'll have the static displays, we're looking at interactive, possible virtual reality, making it something attractive to all the ages and every aspect of the community.
We've still got our collection safe, but you can have an object, but unless it's got a story with it to tell, it doesn't mean so much. So in our small museum before, we had an object, and unless some of us were standing there, to tell what that object meant. It didn't mean much. But in our Heritage Centre, we're going to have the opportunity to tell the stories about the people and about the district and how the geology was formed and the mountains and the sea and our iwi and how they came here and why they came here. Well, Jack, you had a huge collection. I don't know, when did you start collecting all that stuff that you had?
Well, I don't know. You can't put a date on this sort of thing. It's something you sort of grow up with when you're a kid. And we started the main part of the museum in 1980, and then the earthquake shook it down. We've been here. We came here in 1919. We've been on the place 100 years, so it's just quite good. I can remember coming out from Blenheim and getting about St Andrews and thinking, oh, I don't think I'll ever get Tarshiel to Ward, and it only took them a few years.
After all these things over these 100 or so years, we've lost, there's no sort of centre focus for the community. And I guess that's one of the main drives for the Heritage Centre, is we're looking to create a real centre for the community. And so being on the land that we've chosen next to the community hall with some green space and hopefully park and you know, native plantings and so forth, we're really going to create a hub for the future community to grow, and it'll become a real heart, and that's what's really key to us. So.
Really, the story starts 2 years ago when we selected this piece of land. It had been fairly untouched, no fertilisers or sprays. And then following that, we came through, we formed all the beds, laid all the drip tape, followed by coming through and transplanting all these seedlings into the rows. We're now right about harvest time. We've got 40,000 plants out here. We've got close to 30 people working on site today, and all of this material over the next 3 weeks needs to be cut down and taken to our drying facility. Big important thing to know here is that all of our methods here have been organic. We're well down the path of getting our BioGrow certification. So all of the fertilisers, foliar sprays that we apply to the plants are all from organic means and a certified organic product. This will not only set us apart from all of our competitors, but it will also demand a higher price point.
And you can kind of tell a flower's quality by normally a leaf, sugar leaf to bract ratio, or to calyx ratio. And the more bracts and calyxes you find in there, the better. We just look for a 10% ambering on the bracts there, and then we know it's ready to harvest. The next part that I get really excited about as well is eventually the idea of putting a dam up there and a little pond up there as well. And then using a form of aquaponics, because I'm really big into self-sustainable ecosystems, and I love the idea of having a healthy koi population that through their waste provide really good nitrates, and to be able to come down into our plants, which is basically, if well kept and well done, free fertilizer.
We are inside Puro's Kikuringi drying facility. This is a purpose-built 1,000 square metre facility. So here behind us we've got one of our drying methods. This is a traditional hang dry method for drying top flower. So we've hand harvested these flowers. These are all CBD flowers in the field. Brought them back in here yesterday, and they are currently drying, which we estimate takes around 7 days in this facility. So they can be stored for and sold as for manufacturing purposes. What Puro is a cultivation, or a large-scale cultivator, and we're setting ourselves up to be one of the larger growers in Australasia. What we are not is a manufacturer. So all of our product will be sold to pharmaceutical and nutraceutical medicines, therapeutical manufacturing purposes. So we won't do that in the house here. We will sell our products, and then the products will then, or the dried flower will then be converted into medicines by our third parties. The biggest bottleneck for cultivation is the drying process. One of the reasons for doing the 3 different dry methods this year is to understand what works best for Puro, what works best in this climate, what works best for our buyers, and we'll take that knowledge next year and scale it up accordingly.
Yeah, the idea really came out of the 2016 Kaikoura earthquake, and I suppose it was modelled on the then successes of some other rail-based trails around New Zealand, and it seemed just such a winner for the greater Marlborough Kaikoura area, and the opportunity was there in the rebuild to make it a reality. What excites me is the fact that the beauty of this coastal scenery combined with some mountains and some other, the wine region, it's really some of the best part of New Zealand, and it does another key role. New Zealand is invested in cycle tourism, but Marlborough Kaikoura have none, and this actually is the missing piece in the national link-up of the whole New Zealand trail. Very exciting. The trail was always seen as for everyone. I'm now 66, so I'm in the old class, and I want to be riding it hopefully when I'm still 80. So I want children, families. It's got to be safe. It's got great facilities. It'll have great viewing sites. It accesses beaches and forest walks that are not known at the moment. So it's really exciting for everyone. One of the highlights are all the bridges we have to cross. They've got clip-ons, they've got inserts into them. As a boy in Marlborough, I loved going across the Arbitrary Road rail bridge. They took it away, I was very sad. Now we're putting it back, isn't that exciting? The Whale Trail has always been thought of as the backbone of Marlborough and Kaikoura's tourism infrastructure. It'll take people to places they can't get to. It'll provide opportunities for local people to show off their craft, their beautiful environment, their history, their culture. Just unbelievable number of opportunities it will create within the region. And it's always been thought of as a facilitator of just that. This time next year, it'll be real. You'll actually see cyclists crossing the old Seddon Bridge. There'll be people wanting services, wanting information, wanting to talk to you. You can become involved with them or however you want to. It'll just be so exciting, and I'll be one of the first of them.
And how perfect that a cyclist went past during that.
Yes!